Molweni kakhona, and good afternoon. The person we're waiting for is here, and trust me, it was worth the wait. Yes, thank you. I just want, before I introduce myself, I just want to thank Alan, Paul, and the team at Exclusive Books for hosting us and for making this place, transforming this place within an hour to look the way that it does. Thank you so much. My name is Judy Dlamini. I'm the co-founder of Sifiso Publishers that my husband Sizwe and I founded 6 years ago. This happened when we founded the schools, Future Nation Schools, and it wasn't for making profit, but the sole purpose of Sifiso Publishers is to write books and publish books that educate, that inform, that inspire, and it's also about telling stories about our African achievers across race, and especially to future leaders, future African leaders across ages. And I cannot think of a better leader to tell the story about than the person that we are about to celebrate today. Today is very special. It was chosen specifically because of what it means to the Mayosi family and the Khumalo family and all those that loved and respected Bongani Mayosi, Mawetu Mayosi. I call him Bongani because he was my junior at university. But please forgive me for his students and his mentees who think, that's disrespectful, you know? It's Prof. Bongani Mawetu Mayosi, you know? I said this day is special because 56 years ago, a couple that we have a lot of respect for was awaiting a gift from God. And that gift came at 9 a.m. and Mrs. Nontle will correct me if I'm wrong, at St. Mary's Hospital, Mthatha. And we are very lucky that the person who gave this gift to us is here with us. Mrs. Nontle Kamaduna Mayosi. Thank you. In my culture, when you are celebrating, really, because this is a very happy day, you ululate. And I'm just looking at the women. That sounds more like it, right? Thank you. And we thank you, Sisi, for the work that you did. In the book, we have a lot of people, 78 to be exact, contributors to the book. And it's 3 generations from the Mayosi clan, and also 3 generations from Omtuwa, the Khumalo family. Someone, actually Kutala, I'm looking around for Kutala and I can't see her. She's not here, okay. Tell her that I thanked her in her absence because the talent that we celebrate from the Mayosi family didn't just happen. It's not just only DNA. Of course, DNA matters, but the raising, the nurturing that I give accolades to Mrs. Nontle. And when you buy the book and read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. The effort, double, triple effort that she placed in nurturing her offspring. We thank you. I see there are many people from what we used to call UNB, University of Natal, Black Section. Our Deputy Minister is here. We appreciate your presence. I won't be long because my job is to direct the program, and it's a short program. Initially, we'll have the panel, which will do a book review, and it's not many times that you see such esteemed achievers on the same panel, and they also happen to be contributors to the book. And for that, I just want to thank them. Can we clap for that, please? Thank you. The panel will be led by a strategist that I will present to you before I sit down. Following that, we'll allow the floor to have questions to the panel, and after that, I'll ask the chairperson of Bongani Mayosi Foundation to say a few words, and I'll tell you why at the right time. And after that, I'll guide you as to the signing and everything else that will happen afterwards. It is indeed a short program. Without wasting much time, I would like to introduce Nozipho Shabalala. She is a daughter that I inherited from Kambanjwa. She is a global conversation strategist, a global moderator, a broadcaster, and an entrepreneur. Prior to her starting her own enterprise, she was an anchor and a producer at CNBC, reporting on business, politics, gender, and youth issues. I like this when I describe what she does, and I'm sure you'll agree with me at the end. She helps smart people have simple conversations that make the world a better place. Over to you.
Ngiyabonga, thank you so much, Mama. Ladies and gentlemen, I do think it is good afternoon. And as Mom Judy has indicated, my job is only for us to have a really meaningful conversation. So I'm going to start off with introducing our panelists who are going to come up. And thereafter, I promise you, I'm not going to keep them to myself. I'm going to lean on you to lead the conversation through your questions and your comments. And so, without further ado, I'm going to start off by inviting Prof. Salim Karim. As he comes up, I just want to let you know he has given me permission to call him Prof. Slim, which sounds a whole lot cooler, and I absolutely love it. But he is the director of the Center for the AIDS Program of Research in South Africa, also known as CAPRISA. He's a professor of global health at Columbia University, and I'm only going to add that he has many awards, including being recognized as the African Union's, been given the African Union's Kwame Nkrumah Award, which is, of course, Africa's most prestigious scientific award. Thank you very much, Prof. Slim. Let's give him a round of applause. I'm going to follow that up with Prof. Mpiko Nteke. Thank you very much. Prof, I don't have a cool name for you, so I'm going to keep it as Mpiko today so that we can differentiate it between the profs. That's the only reason. But he is the current Helen and Morris Mauberger Professor. He's the chair and head of clinical cardiology at the University of Cape Town and at Groote Schuur Hospital. He's director at the Mayosi Research Collaborative, and he also holds a position of Vice President of the South African Heart Association. He's also the Secretary General of the South Pan-African Society of Cardiology and the chair of the South African Heart Registries, and I'm going to pause it there. Let's give him a big round of applause, please. And then I had the privilege of traveling with one of my sisters today, and we didn't recognize each other until we arrived in Cape Town. But we also have with us Dr. Kopano Mabaso. She's a senior program officer in health for the Africa region, and this at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's a public health doctor. She's a Rhodes Scholar and alumni of the University of Oxford. She's an award-winning author, and I'm not done yet. She's an Archbishop Desmond Tutu Fellow. She's a Global Shaper and an Aspen New Voices Fellow. And she is also co-author of the book, but also, more importantly for today, one of the mentees of Prof. Mayosi. Let's give her a big round of applause, please. And we're going to close it off with a very special voice, and we're so excited and privileged that Gugu Mayosi is here with us. And Gugu occupies a special place in the conversation today. She's an occupational therapist, but more than anything, she is the last born daughter of Prof. Mayosi and Mom Nonhlanhla. Let's give her a round of applause. So I'm going to get right into it, and I'm going to start off by saying that for those who haven't bought the book, My intention today is that you still want to buy the book. So we're not going to give too much away. What we are going to do is we're just going to delve into the book every now and then. We're going to take a sneak peek every now and then. And we're going to come out, but we're going to lift your own experiences of Prof. We're going to be lifting your own experiences of how you lived alongside him and observed him. So I'm going to start off with Gugu. I'm going to start off right with you. And as I was reading the book, I couldn't help but go to the place where Makulu describes your father as Ukiki. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The nickname she says that she gave to him because of the infectious laughter that he had. Your father is described as always having a big smile. Always has this memorable laugh that gave him this beautiful nickname, and always had an encouraging word for everyone around him. As you read the book, what's the most treasured memory that came to the surface for you that reminded you of this really special person that you were able to journey with for all of your life so far?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gugu Mashego, actually.
Mr. Mashego, I apologize.
Just had to put that disclaimer in. So reading the book I found it really emotional, but in the most beautiful way. I think seeing Udada through the eyes and lens of so many people who shared him with us was really, really, really humbling. I think my most treasured memories are us at the dinner table. So we had this 7 o'clock rule. Well, I think Mama was the one who instilled it. That we had dinner at the table together every single evening at 7 o'clock. From when we were young, from as long as I can remember. And during these dinners, it was really a chance for, I don't know, us as kids to kind of like share like how our days were. I think the intentional way in which he asked us questions, asked us about our friends, what are you learning at school, really made me feel special. Like I always felt like he intentionally tried to show me that he was there and that he was supportive. But I think a story from Makulu's chapter, Bongani the Sun, that made me laugh was when she had them do piano lessons, and then at the end there was no exam. So Udada was very upset that now there's no paper that he's gonna get from this thing that he's done, and he wanted to report Umakulu to Udada Makulu to say that she was wasting their time. Yeah. And so I think for me, the chuckle of how he was like that from, how I knew him is how he was from the beginning. I think that thread of wanting to learn and wanting to be excellent at everything and wanting proof also that it's done and it's been done well. That for me it really made me chuckle. So.
Sure. And such a beautiful memory, and I want to go to Mam Nonhlanhla because I think, Mama, that also holds true in how you took on your ballroom dancing love. So the story goes, and I'm not going to give it away too quickly, but the story goes is that a shared love for ballroom dancing between Prof. Mayosi and Mam Nonhlanhla, and then once they won a particular competition, he was like, well, we're done, on to the next, no need to repeat that exam. So these are beautiful nuggets, but I'm going to come back, Gugu, to the presence that you're sharing, because I think the presence and how he was so present in so many people's lives is certainly a theme that we're going to have to unpack a little bit more. Prof. Slim, let me come to you next, and I want to talk about this love affair with medicine, but also with the continent and the world, that started at the medical scholarship group meetings that Prof. Mayosi was able to attend at a young age. And how from that love affair, we've now seen the gift that this has become to medicine, to the country, to the continent. I know that you were there at Prof. Mayosi's orientation week. Take us back to that moment. What did you see? What did you experience? Did he have an impact in that moment as he was standing amongst many other students in the room?
Yes, Nozi. Let me just make sure I've got this correct. Right. Listen, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be with you and not to say anything about COVID. I was a final year medical student, and I have to tell you that the class representative was somebody you may be familiar with, Dr. Aaron Motswaledi. Now, if you know Dr. Motswaledi, you know he's the loud mouth in the class. So he recruited me, and he was recruiting a few of us from the final years, to do the orientation for the new incoming first year class. And he roped me in because I was involved with the medical students SRC. And in all of this, I was mingling with the students and just chatting. And there was one student who I spotted out of the corner of my eye, and he was sitting at the corner and he had this smile. It was quite an infectious smile. I went across, just chatted to him, and I thought nothing of it at the time. He was just somebody that, he had a presence, and that was what captured me. Anyway, so I didn't see him again until 15 years later, when I was sitting on a panel with several other individuals from UCT, and he came in as a candidate to be interviewed for the Oxford Nuffield Fellowship. And as he walked in, I know this face. It hasn't changed in all that time. And he walked in with that infectious smile once again. And I tell you, in that interview, my jaw dropped when I looked at what he had achieved in that time. He had undertaken amazing research on cardiomyopathy. And I mean, it was a no-brainer that he was our #1 candidate to go to Oxford University to do a PhD. But that's my memory of my early times with him. I've got many more memories, which I will share with you later. But I want to fast track that to my most recent. And that was a very emotional time for me. And it was a time that I spent with Slansla in Washington when Professor Mayosi was receiving the highest accolade any medical scientist can get in the world. And that is, he was being inducted in memoriam, posthumously, into the National Academy of Medicine in the USA. That is the premier body. So I'll just end up with, there are less than a dozen South Africans that have ever been inducted into that body. Just give you some idea of how prestigious it was. And the moment that Nasansla went up was the moment that, it all just sunk in. And this is the greatness of the person, that even in his absence, his greatness shows. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Prof. Slim. And yet, Prof. Mpiko, you had the privilege of journeying, not only as a colleague initially, but becoming a close friend and what I would describe as close family. You traveled together, you ran together, and you first met Prof. Mayosi as an intern, I believe. Again, I want to invite you to take us back to that moment, that very first meeting. But maybe if you could also comment on how would you describe the impact that he's had on your life?
Well, welcome again, everybody. This is an incredible privilege to be here and be part of this celebration. So my first encounter with Bongani happened, and to many of you that know him won't be surprised, at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was an intern. I was doing my ward round in G16. I had lots of patients. I had to get there before the consultants came to do their award round. And in came this person I'd never seen before. It was very awkward. It was quite a scare. And it was a black medical registrar, okay, white coat, and he comes into this patient that I'm looking at, kind of. Oh, my mic not on.
Sorry?
It's on, just closer to your mouth.
Closer, sorry. So he comes in, white coat, and kind of, straightens his white coat when he gets to the patient. And I think he asked me one or two questions. Now, I knew this was not his patient. He was there as part of a research project. 5 in the morning, coming to see his research patients as a first-year medical registrar. And I'm like, who is this? Who does this? I was really blown away. I think he said 1 or 2 words, and the memory stuck. Back then I was an intern, a lone intern. He was a medical registrar, and we didn't quite see each other over the next little while. Until actually he came back from Oxford, now as a consultant cardiologist. I see Pat and Rob in the audience. He was a consultant cardiologist, and I was a first-year trainee. Okay, and you asked his impact on me as a person and professional and father, and I'll speak to those. What Bongani was able to do for me, and I think there are a lot of medical people here, and often we choose a profession, we choose a career, and we have a sense of what it's about, but not really. I want to be a doctor because I want to help. I want to be a cardiologist because I really like to diagnose and help people. And what Bongani was able to do really was articulate for me a much grander picture about how I could use whatever talents and gifts and skills and expertise that I could acquire really to do much, 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 much more. And for the first time, he really articulated something very tangible for me in terms of what's possible. And that was, that has really stayed with me and shaped what I've gone on to do. You asked about impact on family. Obviously, who I am impacts my family, but it's very much related to 2 of the stories we've already just heard.
Yeah.
Okay, so given how busy we are, both Nonhlanhla and Bongani were very adamant that you had to create this golden hour with your family. Okay, this Mayosi hour. And we did, I was just chuckling as you were talking because we did the exact same thing. In fact, one of the motivations from moving from our early house to where we live now is because we could have a table where we could all sit around at 7 o'clock. Didn't matter what I was doing, I'd run home, we'd sit around and engage with the kids. So that was there. And then just to finish off, the other funny story you just relayed was about playing the piano. Because I remember calling him once, it was about 2007, 2008, and you were playing in the background, and he was giggling, and he answered the phone, and he said, "Oh, I'm just having so much fun with my daughter, and she's playing the piano." And my wife was just reminding me about how touched I was by that, and it really modeled for me sort of work-life balance, that you could do all of this and be present for your family, and it really stuck with me, and it's shaped who I've tried to be and emulate. Yeah.
Sure, that's beautiful, Prof. Mpiko. Thank you very much. Dr. Kopano, before I come to you, I just want to make a quick comment because I think you've touched on 2 things. One, Prof. Mayosi's ability to expand the horizon of possibility for everyone that he was around. And as you talk about the 7 p.m. rule, by the way, I'm one of the converted. So after I finished the book, I turned to my husband, I said, have you read what Prof. Mayosi's achieved? 7 p.m. That's what we're doing in the Shabalala household. So I really hope that there are many more that are converted. Dr. Kopano, I mean, you are such a special contributor to this conversation as being mentored by Prof. Mayosi, but also as a public physician and also contributing to this beautiful work that we are now referencing today. My question to you is, as you were uncovering and unearthing these stories and these anecdotes, were you surprised by anything? And if anything surprised you, how has that surprise gone on to shape how you think about your impact in the world from here on?
Yeah, no, thanks, and hello to everybody. I'm glad my husband is here to hear the 7 p.m. dinner. But yeah, thank you to the Mayosi and Kumalo families. It's been such a privilege to have this opportunity to be part of this very special book. Lots of things were both inspiring, surprising. I mean, I think many of us thought we were his favorite. Yes. And I wasn't. Or everyone is his favorite. But he certainly made you feel so special. I mean, and when I think back to the time I actually spent with him, it actually wasn't much. They were quite brief sessions, really focused, but they completely transformed my mind. I mean, sure, I can share many examples. As a fourth-year medic in the rounds at Grooteskies with my clinical partner, and we had a patient we prepared, and we were so excited to present this to him, and he wasn't impressed, and we hadn't checked blood pressure on all 4 limbs. Now you'll be hard pressed to find a fourth-year medic who checks blood pressure on all 4 limbs, but he said to us, Kopano, if you don't care enough for these patients, who will, right? If you don't go the extra mile, if you don't spend a little bit more time trying to understand, then, you know, what contribution are you making? And that stuck with me. In tutorials where he'll ask us, you know, what are the diseases of poverty in our country? You know, what are the diseases that black women are dying from? And, you know, we could speak about what was in the textbook, but we didn't really have a sense of what mattered here. And that sense that we were standing on the shoulders of giants, and that me being here was because of lots of sacrifices that many others had made in terms of admissions processes and women and black women in these institutions, and that I had a responsibility to contribute that. So I think in short bursts of time, he really shifted how you saw your contribution, and that everything matters. But also his capacity. I mean, I think, you know, you think something has to give, right? Like, you can't be good at everything, right? Like family life and, you know, friends, dinners with friends, and just such a bright and active social life that it's just inspiring. His zest, the way he just, he soaked everything up, every moment, every interaction. And I think it encourages one that each day that we are here, that we take nothing for granted. And he certainly lived that way.
Sure, thank you so much, Kopano. One of the things you touched on, which is so beautiful because we find it as a thread in the book, is how he was able to communicate how your being here matters. And so as you speak about how he was able to affirm and allow people to see the bigger impact that you would have, and the support that he gave specifically to talent of color and black women in the profession in particular, it stands out as a constant reminder that your being here today matters, because somebody is seeing it, and through you is saying, oh, somebody like me can actually do that. So I wanted you to lift that up. But so I want to go back to Family Gugu. And that's because, and again, this is not me, this is in the book. In the book, we hear that there's a comment that Mam Nonhlanhla makes about how she might have, in marrying Prof. Mayosi, looked for the similar characteristics to her father. So now that you've corrected me, because I made the blunder that you weren't married, as you chose your beloved, it has to be a follow-up question. It has to be. As you chose your beloved, and it's quite a serious question. To what extent were you influenced by the man who raised you, and on the principles and the values that he raised you on, to the extent that you said, at the very least, I want some of that blueprint into the family that I'm building today?
So I think what Kopano said, Dr. Kopano, sorry, really resonated about being the favorite. I think I so definitely thought I was the favorite. That being said, I think in the book, Vui mentioned it somewhere about how he used to kind of like date us as his kids, as his daughters. And what I mean when I say date, I mean kind of showing us the caliber of man that deserves us. From the beginning, you know, it wasn't just gonna be slim pickings, like, yeah, pick who you want type of thing. It was like, no, I'm gonna show you the blueprint. So I think when it came to the selection of a suitable husband, I already had a very good understanding of what I deserve, but also I had an example of what it looks like to be healthily, happily married, within a God-fearing relationship. So I think, yeah, it wasn't hard. I mean, I don't want to say like it's super easy, but I think, I don't know, it was just so clear of like what to look for. That when I found my husband, I think thumbs up. I think the similarities are there. I can't deny them. But I think the biggest similarity I can say, which is something that Umama's also mentioned, is the way that my husband is so intentional about getting to know people, and the way in which he makes people feel seen. And I think for me that is the biggest reflection of Udada that I have in him. Unfortunately, he didn't get to know my dad very well before he passed, but there's elements of my dad.
It's there.
Definitely, it's there.
Perfect. No, we're just making sure that all the dots, all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted. Prof. Mpiko, I want to go to something else in the book which is slightly different, and that was Prof. Mayosi's consciousness of his relative privilege, if I may call it that. Early on in his early years, we learn about how, as a young boy, he would stand up for other students and actually fight for them to get transport or whatever other need. In his later years, we learn how he was very conscious of his access, his networks, his relationships, and conscious about giving those and sharing those with others. There were many accounts of people saying, I needed this, and he just called this person, or he made this call, and he invited me in, or he spoke my name in the room when I wasn't there. As somebody who's observed that, what does that say to you? How does that impact you? How do you sense make how this person becomes so giving of the very things that we often hold very tight to our chests when we have them?